afternoon, everyone. We're here for another episode of Business Acceleration Playbook, where we're bringing you the plays that you need to win in your business. I have my beautiful co-host. I started to say guest. My beautiful co-host. I just did another show pre-recorded and I was in my loop. But Angela Buckley here with me today. And we're super excited about the topic that we have today. We're going to be talking about finding your superpower, which if I had a couple people go, what does that mean? What does finding your superpower mean? But we're going to get into that, so don't worry about that. Right now, if you're just tuning in and you're watching the replay, I would love it if you would hashtag replay in the comments. It helps us kind of stay up to date on how many people are watching us in replay mode. I also would love it if you would also just take a moment to share it with somebody that you think would find it valuable. And Angela, I'm going to let you dive in and say hi to everybody so that way they can hear your lovely voice.
Hey, everyone. Happy New Year. I know we kind of been back and around and it's kind of a week and a half into the new year, but want to just wish that out to everyone again as well. Today, we're going to talk about finding your superpower. Where is your passion? How do you identify that? And I'm going to just tell you, that is a journey. I'm not sure that we ever find exactly what we're looking for all the way early on in life. I sure wish that I could say I did, but I didn't. And I'm still looking and I'm still passionate about all the things I do, but I think that it changes and it's morphing. And as I grow, those things that I'm passionate about and the skill sets that I develop and how I can help other people develop as well, it just continues to grow. So I think really what we're talking about is how do you find your superpower and your passion now, right? Where are you now? Where are you centered now? Where are you grounded? Where you can find that energy and put back into the world, which is ultimately what I believe what we're here to do. And so I'm really excited about today's show. I'm excited that I see Tim Kroll has joined us because he's definitely one of my favorite guest star co-hosts that joins us from time to time. But let's go. Let's get started. It's going to be a great 2022. I got great things planned for this year, so I hope you do too.
Tim, I want you to introduce yourself to everybody that maybe hasn't seen you before. I don't know. I think if they've been watching the show at all, like you keep popping in everywhere. So like, oh yeah, I do.
Tim pops in. That's great. Pop in, Tim.
It's so funny too because I come in here and then we talk about different things, and I'm like, okay, what hat do I need to put on here, and how do I need to introduce? Because it's like, what's relevant to our conversation at this point in time. So, obviously, my name's Tim Kroll. You can see that down there on the bottom, right? That makes it nice and easy. I've worked in the e-com space and I've built several businesses with partners. And as an employee, I've worked in the corporate world. I've worked in small business. I've coached. I've done a lot of speaking engagements. I happen to be on TV with the Lego Master Show, which was a lot of fun with my kid. So lots of experiences. Some of them have been hard knocks. Some of them have been fun times. But overall, it's just I love being able to teach. I love being able to leave an impact and help people grow from wherever they're at right there to the point that they need to get to. And sometimes it's a matter of asking questions. Sometimes it's a matter of, hey, here's 3 steps that you can do. And sometimes it's a smack in the head, to be honest with you, because you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I love this conversation about superpowers because it's one of my strength finders is individuality. And I feel like the superpower is finding your individuality. So I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too. Well, and I know it's fine if we end up kind of going off. If we find something that's like, yeah, this is a conversation, we'll just flow. But I did kind of make a list of some things that we could kind of talk about in how
I made a list.
Excited into it. She was just like, she's got a list.
I'm sitting over here taking notes. I'm going to write down. I need to mark it down. 107.
So yes, on January the 11th, which is my daughter's birthday, by the way, my oldest daughter's
Happy birthday.
Today. Yeah, it's her birthday. I made a list. I make lists sometimes. This is exactly what we're talking about, our superpowers. List building is not my superpower. I do make lists, but let me it is definitely Angela's superpower. Let me kind of talk about how I figure it out. I think this is a big thing. As you go through doing things, you figure out the things you're great at and the things you're not great at. And I used to make lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of lists. But here's the thing. They were like my security blanket list. Somehow would convince myself if I wrote down the list, I had actually accomplished something. And I didn't. So I was actually hiding behind my list. So I think lists can be effective. They can be great. But for me, I figured out that I was hiding behind them instead of doing something that I should be doing that was going to move the needle in my business. I would spend, 2 hours making some list and some graphic that went with the list that in no way moved my business. So for me, I will make a list on occasion if I feel like there is a purpose and I'm not just utilizing it to hide behind. But that's not saying there's anything wrong with lists. Lists are fabulous. Lists are needed. All the things. So anyway, on number one, I kind of went through my stuff and like kind of how I figured out what my superpowers were. And one of them was I tried a bunch of different things. Like I tried a bunch of different things and figured out what I was great at, what I loved, what brought me joy, and I've heard you say, Tim, because we've been on, consulting kind of calls with clients before together. And I've heard you say this quote that when you talk about this, your face lights up. I've heard you say that to clients that we've had. So, to me, there's things that I talk about, right? That there's portions of things that I love that I can feel my face light up because I love it. I just love it, love it, love it. But there's things that I don't love. And there's things that I want to love that nobody wants me to touch or be around or even do at all because I stink at it. And I think that's how we figure that out, though, is by trying them. I don't know, Angela, I know you're very logical on how you think on things, which is not a knock. That's a great thing. I wish I was more logical sometimes. But for you, does it feel that you're more hesitant to try new things?
I believe strongly that there is no greater teacher than experience. And so growing up, and I think this is really a conversation of where do you start even parenting, experience everything, like dip your toe. The rule in our household was you had to start a sport, but you had to finish the sport. You didn't get to go 3 times and be like, I didn't like it. You had to finish the season. And if you took an instrument, which, was a requirement to take an instrument, but whatever instrument you took it for a year. You didn't get to say too hard, I give up, whatever. So we were allowed to experience many different things, encouraged to experience many different things. My mom she tried to use Betty Crocker to learn how to use Chinese cooking, but not so much, right? Like I say that because it's such an American and not really ethnic, but she tried. She really thought it was very important that we get exposed to different foods, to different cultures, and yes, it was within her window of experience, but she was actively seeking to expand ours so that when we were ready to go into the world, we were prepared. And we had an idea of what we couldn't do, wanted to do, should do, loved to do, didn't love to do. And I think it's that continuous curiosity about the world that allows us to really find what our passions are. So I think that's where it is. Like experience is the teacher, but the question is curiosity. What is it? And continually delving into that really even every day, because it's going to modify itself from time to time.
I love that. Yeah, I was curious. The reason I asked you first is because I feel like I'm always looking at you going, wait, what would a logical person think about this? So what was somebody super logical? That was the reason I went straight to you. And I feel like Tim.
But that's a very emotional answer, really. Like
yes.
Our passion is based on our emotions, truthfully.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's completely with the facts of like, I may be good, I may not be good, but that's not necessarily what lights you up. And so if it lights you up and it's hard for you, go for it anyways.
I love that. What about you, Tim? Because I feel like I said, I feel like you're like a hybrid. I don't feel like you're quite. I know you use a little animal analogy thing. He calls me an otter all the time. You're a little bit otter.
I'm a lot otter.
It or not, but
I'm a lot otter. I know I am. Yeah. Well, and that's the personality aspect of it. And it's interesting because then when we're talking about superpowers, we actually kind of fit our language. And we talked about language on this before, but our language is so weak in that we talk about a superpower and we think, okay, well, immediately it's about my personality. And then you talk to another individual, and it's immediately about a skill set, or it's immediately about a passion, or it's like, and yet all of these things come together to create who we are and to be able to kind of actually add into that superpower. Because if you look at it, and let's just use superheroes, for example, you look at the different powers that they have. So Superman is probably the most famous. Everybody knows him for however long. And you compare Superman to Bruce Wayne, who's Batman, they both are superheroes, but there's significant differences in how they approach, both in personality, in the fact that one's got money and one's working like a dead-end job as a assistant. Like, I mean, like, you look at these things and that's their personality. Then they look at their techniques and the things that they use, and there's so many different layers that come into the personality of finding, or I should say, come into the finding your superpower, that I just, it's like, it's so wide. So where do we start? And I love what Angela said. It's like, okay, what lights you up and what's that passion? And that can testing, experiencing, finding different things like that will definitely lead you and start leading you down the path. And then when, like, okay, what tools can we use to even go a little bit deeper and discover why we're passionate about something? And that's where I call you an otter. So a tool is a personality test. And I'm an otter too. So I'm a little bit more of an extrovert. I love being in a party. I love being around people. And so my passions, Angela, you brought up about the fact of parenting. As a parent, if I know my child is an extrovert, I'm going to suggest activities that are going to involve more people. If my child is an introvert, I'm going to suggest activities that are more like solo type sports. So the difference between a diver versus a football player. I mean, a football player has to play with the team. They've got to work together. A diver, it's all about them. Golf, it's all about them. It's all about their mindset. So the difference in the personality can say, okay, I think you would enjoy golfing because you're an introvert. I think you would enjoy football or basketball because it's a team sport. So all of these layers of things and how we find it. So I'm talking along, but it's just like, it's so cool. This really lights me up a lot.
That's all right.
We're talking about superpowers. It's like my number 2 thing. So go ahead.
What was you going to say, Angela?
No, I like it. Like, I like that he likes it. So there's my little valley.
Well, that's what I was saying. This is one of your superpowers because this makes you light up, and I mean, it's something that I think it's important. I think when we use that term superpower, people do kind of get confused on what it is. But I mean, basically, that is what it is. It is what lights you up, what brings you joy, what is something that you feel like you're serving your purpose. You're just not, you mentioned dead end job. That's not that's not your superpower. If you feel you're in a dead end job, you're literally calling it a dead end job, I can guarantee you that is not your superpower.
Right. But we look at it as a dead end and they look at it as I'm fulfilling my destiny. And there's a couple of really awesome examples. For example, if you look at a janitor at a high school, outside world sometimes will look at that and say that is a dead end job. Yet the janitor there has impact on every student that walks through those halls. And so from his perspective or her perspective is they are there day in and day out impacting kids in a way that nobody else could. And so for them, it's lighting them up, right? But for me, an extrovert, I'd be like, dude, that's like a dead end job. And that's just my mindset. And I got to fix that. But that's where it's really like what Angela said. It's really about what is your passion? What are you passionate about?
Well, and I think you mentioned something that's actually on my list is like you look for a problem to solve. Like if we are kind of built to want to solve problems, whether we realize it or not, a lot of the things that we do when we enjoy are things that are solving a problem. You mentioned Tim, the janitor, is bringing joy to kids' lives and talking to them and getting to know them and all the things. He's solving a problem, whether he realizes it or not, and he's getting fulfillment from that job, from that. I mean, I doubt his fulfillment comes from scrubbing the toilets and mopping the floors. Yes, that's something that needs to be done. That needs to be applauded in its own way. We definitely want our janitors to be there. But, I'm sure that's not the portion of it that is going to be, if he is in a job, a position as a janitor, and it is something he feels like that is his superpower, it's probably more of what you said, that he's there with the kids, he's impacting their lives, he's solving the problem. Maybe he's filling, a temporary position that they don't have, a father figure, a grandfather figure, or whatever, by having those small little conversations and those little tiny meaningful things is what adds up to be our superpower. So
I read just this morning, it was a quote, so I don't remember who wrote it. Sorry. But it was commenting on when we go home at the end of the day, you sit down, have a cup of tea, you have a cup of coffee or something. But in this moment of silence, you can either choose that it's silence or that you're alone, right? Like, is this an energy building moment for you, or is it an energy draining moment for you? How do you handle that? And so sometimes that answering that right there is also part of identifying where you are, where you're going to go in identifying your superpowers.
I seen Tim smiling because he talks about that a lot too. I think it's important to talk about a lot of those things because it is. And I mean, you can term them however you want to, you know. Oh, there's Chanel. Hello, Chanel.
Hi, lady.
Can you hear me?
I started saying, so glad you're feeling better. They go, ah! So we are glad you're feeling better.
I'm not feeling better, but I'm here.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here and feeling enough better to be here. I'll say that.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
We've been talking about our superpowers and we've had a little bit of the conversation going on, but we were just talking about, Angela mentioned that there's some things that we do that drive us, that give us energy, and there's some things that we do that drain us, and how that's a big factor in helping to figure out what our superpowers are. So I don't know if you want to dive in and number one, say hi to everybody, and then number two, kind of jump in on the conversation.
Okay, first of all, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm happy to be back. I am heavily medicated because I am very sick. So hopefully I can get through this.
This actually might be really fun if that's the case. I can't wait to see what's going on.
No, I have learned.
I feel like it's the best show ever.
No. It's not a fun medicated, y'all. Oh. It's when the medicine expires, I can't breathe and talk. Today is my first day of the year trying to work. 1 hour in, it's been difficult, but yes, I am Chanel Rose. I am your favorite Airbnb super host and host coach. I love it. I find great joy in the real estate environment. So what is my superpower and how does it activate? That's a good question. I don't know that I have a superpower. I feel like I'm all over the place all the time. I would just say I have this. Okay, so two parts. Okay, so y'all know who Michelle Obama is, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I don't know. I have to read the room. So you know, she has her book, Becoming, right? And so it's this evolution of her as a woman, how she got to where she is, who she is, why she loves who she is, right? So I have this journal that she came out with that book. It comes with the book. It's a journal version of the book. And there's like this one part, and it talks about like, what is your word? Like, what is your state, right? And it took me a long time. And even before that, I had read this in like different sociology and psychology books. And it's like your word, right? So like hers is becoming. Mine is being, right? And so whenever I am in a position of uncertainty or a position of power, I always try to understand who I am being in that process, right? So am I being mean, right? Am I being medicated? Am I being supportive, productive? Like, who am I being in that space? And it is a form of centering for me. So my self-awareness, which I feel is like this overused concept. People talk about being self-aware all the time. And usually the people who are pushing self-awareness are always the ones who you like, do you know how you make me feel when you do these things? Like, it's usually not the person who is truly self-aware. But I digress. But I think that my understanding of who I'm being in situations is my superpower, because I'm always auditing and editing and just trying to make sure that I am essentially playing the right role. And that shifts, right? So sometimes I am the person in control, and sometimes, like, you know, leaning in, and sometimes I am stepping back. And just like that leadership style, it's like that flexibility. But I guess my superpower is just being. Like, I never feel like I have to be something, right? Like, I don't always feel like I have to be the smartest in the room, or the one who's, when my friends are in a crisis, I have to be the person that they call first. Like, that's not my role. Like, I'm just fluid in all processes. So I guess my superpower is just being. That's my answer.
That's a nice one.
Is
I like
definitely
it.
energy too, though.
I like it.
I like it too. Your energy, you bring it. You bring the energy.
That's
I like
who I am always very.
I think it's. I mean, I do. I mean, I think it's another thing that I kind of even had on my list when you're trying to recognize your own superpowers. Ask other people. Ask other people, like, just tell them, say, hey, I'm doing this project with myself, trying to figure out what I'm great at. And, can you give me two or three things that you think are my superpowers? Ask other people, because sometimes, other people are going to be able to see parts of you that you don't necessarily see. So, I mean, I think that's another great way of finding out, but also, take it with a grain of salt, as far as when you're really defining what you want to do. Because if somebody's like, oh, I think you'd be great at this or do this or do this, and it's not something you're doing now, don't go starting all this other stuff just because somebody said it.
Yeah. I have an anecdote about that. So for a long time in my professional career, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so people always tell you, get a mentor, or, look at this person, look at that person, right? And so I want to say this kindly, and also as a hypocrite. Sometimes you just need to do it, right? Like, people tell you, hire a coach. Sometimes you don't need to hire anybody. Sometimes you don't need to invite people to your mess. Like, you need to figure it out, right? So in my professional career, I ended up in a lot of situations that I didn't choose. And I had an excellent professional career. So no one who's looking at this feel sorry for me. This is not that. I'm telling you that I ended up in places because I was invited. So I got invited into a lot of really cool rooms and spaces. And so I'm very satisfied and proud of who I have been as a professional. But, this is really, really transparent. I don't think I would have chose any of it. And I want to be very clear and tell you I was not without choice. I just wouldn't have chosen. And maybe the reason why I'm so in love with Airbnb and why I feel such a sense of pride and appreciation for Airbnb and the short-term rental property process is because I chose it. And I'm lucky, right? Like, I'm a young person. I've had lots of careers. I was a political fundraiser, political campaign manager. I've done investment sales. Again, no one feels sorry for me that I feel like I didn't choose my life. But now, and they say like women in their 30s, like things just change, right? And at the beginning of my 30s, I was like, where is my change? Where is it? It skipped me. Someone called God and tell him my number's the same. Like, what happened for me? And so for years, I just didn't think it was I just didn't think it was my path. But I'd always said at 35, I was retiring from corporate America because I hated it. And I hated it and I didn't like it. So it's like, either way, I'm just going to quit my job or something. I'm out. I actually got fired. So be careful what you say, right? You got to be specific in your manifestation. And then, for real, I got fired. Like, I wasn't trying to get fired after not being paid for months. Again, you got to be careful. But now, having went through that process, and now I feel like I've chosen my success. I've chosen my path. Just as a person, the confidence that they say women get in their 30s, I got it. Sorry, Tim, but that's what they tell us. We get a newsletter. You don't get it in our newsletter. It's in there.
Men go through a different process. It's interesting to hear you talk because I know as a man what I've gone through, and while they're not identical, they're similar processes, just different because we are different, right? But go ahead, keep telling your story. I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh no, I appreciate it. I just, I feel bad. We used to have a guy host, and he's on hiatus, and I used to do this to him all the time. But as I can only share my experience as I have it. But it's just been like really great these last. And Maria's known me for a while, and Angela, not as long, but enough that I can say like I feel different. I want y'all to know, and like whoever's watching this, I never felt different. I used to get promotions. I raised a bunch of money. People were so impressed. I was like, okay, cool. Glad I helped. It never felt good. And wow, someone's gonna watch this one day. I have a lot of explaining to do. But it just didn't. It didn't happen for me. I've won political campaigns as a Black woman running races for white men. I have, raised a bunch of money in Wisconsin and Virginia. And I have been like this thing that people like, I get in the room, they're like, that's Chanel, what Chanel did? I'm like, cool, can we talk about something else? Like, it just never felt like my own. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I said all the success was great. All the accolades are great. I don't take anything away from my experiences. I absolutely love the people I worked with. I'm very proud of the person I am, the citizen that I am for this country. In no uncertain terms, I can see the impact that I've had on thousands of lives. I'm proud of that, but it's different. This is very different. This feels personal. I feel like I'm in it for me. And that has really been, that whole being thing, that transformation. It happened. Again, I manifested a little off, but like I did what I was supposed to do. I retired from corporate America at 35. I'll probably never go back because corporate America felt like prison. I could actually make a case that it is prison, but I don't want to get us in trouble. So I can listen.
Oh no, I think I know I could.
Yeah, well, no, we need sponsors, so we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Edit this part out.
So Angela's over there from the corporate job.
I still work for corporate America. So.
Yeah. Corporate America's good. It pays the bills. So I'm going to be quiet now.
Yeah,
tell me about you, Tim. I didn't get to talk to you.
Let's stick with our conversation, though. I mean, I don't mind sharing. The main thing is it's interesting to hear the different experiences coming from different individuals. Because what a man goes through is, and we put labels on things all the time just to help identify. And you guys are talking about, you feel different, you're becoming, you actually have a different confidence level. Men go through very similar situations, except for they say that it's usually around 45 when we start experiencing that transition. Because usually through about 20 to about 45 we call that our warrior cowboy stage, where we seek the adventure. We seek and we look at what's the next adventure that's going on. And then around 45.
Who calls it that? Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I don't want to. Who calls it that? Do you just call it that?
No, there's actually several books out there. So
Yeah,
there's
a warrior cowboy.
We're not reading the Becoming Men books.
No, we read our newsletter.
Never heard that.
No, I know.
Come on,
There's
Tim.
actually several books. So John Elridge wrote a book. He's the one that called it the Cowboy.
I just want to clarify. I was not throwing you on the bus. I swear. I just really wanted to ask. It was just like,
and that's what I love about this is like we have so much different energy, and we have to have this different energy in order for people to be able to relate. And Maria, you and I talked about this. Is we can say the exact same thing, and people will resonate with us differently, right? And so that's what men resonate with. Is we look and we seek to save the damsel in distress. We look to be able to say, what is that next adventure? What is the thing? Then that we're truly what John Elridge calls us is we're wild at heart. That's truly what men are. And then as we look at that, we start to go through the experiences, and then we discover through our experiences, and Angela, you said it earlier, is what lights us up. What's that passion? Those experiences create our passion, which then allow us to step in what they call the king phase, or even the magi type phase or the mentor phase. And those are the phases that we kind of go through. But in order for us to get to the king, we have to be the warrior, and we have to have the battle scars to understand how to govern and lead properly. We have to have those experiences in order to be able to know what our power is as far as within the king. Maria, you're smiling away. I don't know.
I'm laughing because I know I can read Angela's mind. I'm just waiting for it. That's all. Go ahead. that was all. I know.
I work with a lot of men.
Yeah. So, you were talking, and I don't know. But anyway, no, it wasn't bad. I was just.
I know it's just different when we see, and we go back even through, and I've read this back in psychocybernetics. When men and women are born, we're different right away. Men are born with a membrane that separates our right side from our left side. Women have no membrane, so they can very easily, that's where you get the women's intuition, and they can understand and be more empathetic, whereas men, we actually just lock away a side of our emotional side of things. And sometimes it's very matter of fact. And that's why, frankly, men are better at war than women are, because they can put some of that stuff aside. So
wait a minute. I got to stop you right there. Do you know that women are better shooters than men? Literally, if women were in war, they would last a significantly less amount of time because women shoot better than men. So actually,
that was actually proven in Russia. Women are better snipers because they're more patient. They don't rush in.
So explain this to me. Wars have guns.
In Russia, they don't rush in. That's such a fun phrase.
It wasn't intentional. It just sort of happened. But that's the actual truth. The Russians trained women as snipers
Poor
because
Tim.
they were better at that time because they were more patient. They were able to camouflage better. They had a lot more reserve compared to a man that typically runs in all crazy
and gets his head shut off.
Yeah, exactly.
So you saying that at that time, are you trying to say that women have over our evolution have stopped?
No, don't pay me into a corner.
No, I just have to stop. My mother.
They're both getting closer.
All I'm saying is about as far as the reason why.
Closer and closer to the camera.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've noticed that, but I have.
Yeah.
So this is dangerous turf.
I know, but I'm okay to enter the dangerous turf because that's where we're at. So
yeah.
All I'm saying is that the way that we were created originally is men have an easier ability to put aside emotions and to act without that emotion. Women tend
actually
to
am
use
on board with that statement. Yeah, no.
Typically in wartime, when you have, and this is now we have more modern war, and there's other things that are going on which we don't understand. But that was the reason in World War I and World War II, a lot of the men came back, and there was a lot of some of these challenges, and they just shut up because they shut down their emotional side of things. Now, is it healthy? I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm just saying that's kind of the factual things. When women come back from war, experiencing that much trauma, it stays with them longer than it does a man, because a man can actually shut that down. Not healthy. I'm not saying that. So I'm going to avoid this whole it's now, but that's just how we were created. We were just split. We can put emotions and we can put them up on a shelf, put them in a little box, and that's what men do. Unfortunately.
I want you to read this book. I'm going to challenge you to be flexible in your thinking. There's this book, I think it's called The Body.
Is dying over there.
There's this book. No, for real. Like, listen, my brain is so full of random information. The more you talk to me, the more you'll be like, why? Why is this a thing for you? So there's this book called The Body Keeps Score. Okay. And I challenge you, because you brought up military specifically in men and compartmentalizing their emotions. Read the book, The Body Keeps Score. It's about the guy, the doctor who basically fought to get PTSD as a diagnosis for people who have been to war. That's a very, very, very watered down version. And the reason why I'm encouraging to read The Body Keeps Score, I come from a military family. Military entrepreneurship are densely where my family has amassed its wealth and prestige and pride. So when I say I'm proud of the citizen I know that's like a weird statement typically, but my mom was in the military. So it's just kind of how my brain works. But the book, The Body Keeps Score, actually goes into great detail about what you're discussing. And I don't want to water it down too much, but I would say that some of your thinking about the long-term results of the effects of war on men might change a little because of the research that this specific doctor who was a part of the process of getting PTSD as a diagnosis. And if you don't understand what PTSD and you're watching, post-traumatic stress disorder is basically the effects of trauma on your body and brain long-term. That's a very basic explanation of it. But for a long time, people thought, like what he said, that men could come back from war and essentially the effects were outwardly not as identifiable
apparent.
As they were, as they were in women. And what you will find from reading this book, because I read it because people in my family have PTSD, and as a person, I need to know who I'm being, and I can't really be the best I can be if I don't understand what's happening. So in addition to other books I've read about PTSD and trauma, The Body Keeps Score provided the most explanation and mind shifts that I've ever experienced when trying to understand PTSD and effects of war on a person. So I don't know how we got here, but
we're talking about superpowers.
Yeah, I don't want to negate what you're saying, because I think that what you're saying is important. As a man, I really respect your experience, and I don't want to minimize it by like making light of it, but I am a jokester, so it comes out. But because there are people watching, I want to be responsible and also sensitive to that. I do believe that men do exactly what you said. They take their feelings and they put them in a box. And then you're like, well, where is the box, Tim? I'd like for you to.
No, and that's why I said it's not healthy. I mean, I just want to be really clear.
Open the box a little bit. Can it be a glass box? Can you write on carbon paper so when you put it in the box, I can take the carbon paper and read it? So yes, I'm here with you. I agree that there's
no, and I don't mean to minimize any of that, and hopefully that didn't come across, but
no, it didn't.
It's just, sometimes we expect everybody to be exactly the same, and so I'm going to take this and circle it back to superpowers. We expect everybody to react the same. We expect everybody to be in the same genre, and the challenge is we're not. And so when we're talking about superpowers, we all have different experiences. We deal with whether it's trauma differently. Sometimes it has to come from the way that we were raised. Sometimes it's our past experiences. There's all kinds of things that actually feed into what makes us as an individual. And in that individuality is where we find that superpower ability. And so I don't want to minimize any of that, because I don't want to just blanket and say everybody is this way and that way, although it did sound like that's what I was saying. It's not what I meant in any way, but it's just, there are certain things that we are predispositioned towards based on how we were created, how we were raised, what our personalities are. There's certain things that we tend to lean towards more so than others, but this is not, I'm putting you in a box and this is the way you have to be. It's not that way at all. So I don't know where we go from here, but there's a lot of things that we could actually twist off of this or
I think when we're talking about how to identify our superpowers is really unpacking the box, actually. So I think to your point, Tim, each of us are given gifts when we're born. And then the challenge is for us as an individual, as we walk down our journey, is to look at this box with some sort of curiosity. What's in here that we like that we can use? What's in here that we like that we can capitalize on? What's in here that honestly just isn't working for us in our current context, our current situation? You know, if you have a dog, they love to go into their little dog toy corner and pick out all the toys. And all of a sudden the toys are like distributed through the entire house, right? And you put them back and the dog gets them out and puts them all throughout the house again. They find their favorite ones and they bring those out. They bring them to you. They want to play with those. Wouldn't it be so nice if that was so easy for us, right? Like we struggle with that as humans because we have context. We have what the rest of the world thinks, how they perceive us. And sometimes maybe you want to hide even some of the things that we like the most because society says, oh, but a teenage boy shouldn't like pink or some crazy, right? Like there's stereotypes that we have in our world that we live with. But how wouldn't it be nice if it could be as simple as picking out your favorite toy and bringing it to your owner? And I think that is really what it really comes down to when we're talking about it. We need to pull it out, examine it, and find out what works for us. And what's the Marie Kondo way? Does it spark joy? Yeah. If it doesn't spark joy, move it out the door, right? And I think finding the superpower is the curiosity of, does this get me up in the morning? Am I going to carry this with me as I go through the day? When I'm down and out, you know, I still sing like the music, Sound of Music with my snowflakes and nose on eyelashes, right? Like I still love snow and I still love music. In case you were ever wondering anything about Angela, I love snow and I love music, right? Like, so these things bring joy to me. And when I'm down and out, that silly little song still is there. It plays in my permanent soundtrack. What is your soundtrack? I think that's where we go with our superpowers.
Oh, it's so and I love that you mentioned, because that's actually one of the things I even had on my list is I think and I mean, when I was younger, I worried about it a little more. And Janelle, you mentioned something about 30s, 40s is even better / worse. I'll just go and throw that out there. But it's like, it's one of those things that you look back when you're in your 20s and even in the 30s a little bit, and you're like, why did I even care what they thought? Why did I care? Why wasn't I the entire time chasing? And I'm not talking about just kind of, walking along. I'm talking about like running, like sprinting toward those things that made us feel that joy. Because, you look back and you realize that you've actually wasted so much time caring about, well, if I do that, then they're going to think, well, if I do that, then, they're going to, think this or think that, think this and think that. And then you realize when you start to get older that who cares? If it's something that's bringing me joy, if it's something that I feel, alive when I'm doing it, if something that's one of my superpowers, that's one of my it's my purpose. And I think, yeah, in my opinion, you can kind of use the word purpose and superpower interchangeably as far as we are, talking today. And, that's one of the things that I strive to do now. My decisions on what I do with my business, with my family, with my own personal life, I am constantly asking myself, why? What's the purpose? Why do I want to do it? Because I want the answer to be because I deeply want to do it. And not because so-and-so down the road said I can make X amount of dollars doing it. I don't care. And honestly, when I do my own onboarding, if people's only reason for wanting to do whatever business it is because of the money, and don't get me wrong, Chanel, I'm not hating on money. I love money too. Money's necessary. But money cannot be the only reason, because you can make money doing a billion things. And, money may get you started on doing something, but that's not going to be what carries you through the hard times. That's not going to be what carries you through when there is no money, right? If money's your only reason, then there's no money, then you have no reason anymore. You have to do it for the reason.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing when I was saying, like, where's my light switch from my 30s is that there's this I don't even know how to describe. There's this culture that tells you need to find a deeper reason, and you have to have deeper meaning and things like that. And so I started off in politics, and I got into politics because as a kid, my great grandfather would get me dressed up, like in my Sunday goods, and he would get dressed up in a suit and tie, and we would go vote. He wore a suit once every 2 years, that's the only time so that we went to go vote. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because it taught me the importance of being civically engaged. It taught me the importance of being involved and caring about your community. He was from the South. He came to the North during a Great Migration, and voting for him is something very different than it'll ever mean to me. And so foreshadowing, I think it's that, I need to make an impact in all that I'm doing. It needs to be important. Right. And so as I grew into a professional, I was invited to a meeting that turned into a job, that turned into a 12-year career. One meeting, one job, turned into 12 years. And most people aren't lucky enough to pinpoint when their success started. I can tell you my success is documented. It's in history. I make this joke all the time. There's a neighborhood in Chicago that has a Whole Foods. I was there when it was diagnosed as a food desert. I was the one coordinating the meetings to get people in the community to come have the conversation. I was there when they turned this entire community that used to be alternating one-ways into single one-ways going north so that the grocery store can come. I remember when they started calling them community Whole Foods. I was in those rooms. And so now to have a Whole Foods and these other restaurants in this community that otherwise had no other resources, I was there. So I can tell you where I've made the changes and how I invested in my community. And I know that it started at a very young age. And so imagine being in this position. I could do this with you all day. I can tell you street sections, dates, times, experiences. My mother stood on the stage with President Obama in 2012. I can document all of that. And that, in no comparison, felt anywhere near as fulfilling as how I feel fulfilled every day. And I think it's because I was broke. I was incredibly unhappy and very uncertain about everything. And the one thing I wanted, as crazy as it sounds, I was concerned about being homeless. I mean, I got a lot of family. I really wasn't going to be homeless. But I was concerned about losing my home. That is very real. I just wanted to be happy. I've been so miserable. I had been sick. I felt challenged by life. And I was like, I am just sucking at life right now. Nothing is going my way. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything either. I'm not working. That's my fact. I'm not making money. That's my fact. I'm trying to get healed. That's my fact. All of these things had nothing to do with happiness, though. Because you can be sick and happy. Plenty of people have chronic diseases and lead very fulfilled lives and find joy in all things. And I found joy in nothing. And I was like, wow, am I destined to be unhappy? Am I destined to spend my entire life just letting people hand me jobs? Because I'm on LinkedIn asking for a job. I'm talking to friends asking for a job. I'm asking somebody to make decisions about my life that they actually don't have a right to make. And they're asking me, what do I want to do? And I'm like, I just want to be happy. And they're like, girl, that is not a job description. Like, you need to.
It's true.
Is that on Microsoft Word? Like, tell me.
Objective statement to be happy.
Tell me
That's what you take to your therapist, not to your job interview.
Right. Well, okay, guys. That was before I got in therapy, okay?
Chanel, I think this is really an important question because I think there's a lot of people listening that are going to ask that exact same question or actually make that exact same statement. So all I want to do is be happy. And like what Angela just said is, well, that's not a job description. So how, and this is the question that comes up, how do we take that journey to, number one, discover what our superpower is, which then turns into a sort of job description? And how do we take that superpower, which is where we feel fulfilled? I love that word that you use because you're saying, I feel now I'm fulfilled. And then you also used another word, which I think was really powerful, is impact. So being fulfilled and leaving an impact, how do we go from, I am extremely unhappy, and I think for men and women, it might be a different journey, but maybe not. I think it's going to be kind of universal. How do we come from this point of, I am extremely unhappy, I fell into this, it was an accident, I sort of just kind of fell into this job. How do we go from there to the point of, I'm fulfilled, I'm working within my superpower, and this is what I do to leave an impact?
Oh, step one, get therapy. If you're unhappy, okay, this is going to get me in a lot of trouble, but I don't care. If you don't know, I'm not afraid of trouble.
I know. I can already tell. I've only met you for a little bit, but I already know. It's like, let's go.
If you're unhappy, it's not your husband, it's not your kids, it's not your job, it's you. That is the period at the end of the sentence. Get some help. That's not a casual statement. That is a very real. If nothing else resonates, go to therapy. Find you a therapist. The first one may not work. You may take you 4 or 5. That's okay. You need to trust that that person can help you help yourself.
Right.
That's the point. Help you help yourself. They don't have answers. They have solutions, right? And the thing about solutions that are different from answers is that 2 + 2 is 4, right? But if you have a solution, there's many solutions. How do you get from, how do you get the number 10? You can count to 10. You can add 5 + 5. You can do 2 5 times. Y'all get the point, right? Like those are solutions. But the answer to 2 + 2 is 4, But if you solve for it, there are many different ways to do it. Therapy is that. It's helping you find what solutions. Maybe you're a 1 through 10 kind of girl. Maybe you're a 2 5 times kind of guy, right? Like whatever that is, the solution lies in helping yourself. No one can help you until you help yourself. And so uniquely for some people, that's 3 sessions. I'm a therapy once a week kind of girl. It's a lot going on up here. And so sometimes like I just need help sorting it out. Right? And so sometimes my therapy is kind of like chit chat. And sometimes my therapy is sobbing uncontrollably. Right. And it varies from week to week. Sometimes I'm just happy. Like it's not even that I'm unhappy. Sometimes things are hard. Right. And so they say tears are your emotions becoming physical. Laughing is your emotions becoming physical. It's nothing wrong with physically demonstrating your emotions because it's healthy to do those things. So step 1, get you some help. Step 2.
Can I add to that step 1? Because I think it's really, this is a key.
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
I think this is like probably the hinge point of the entire conversation.
Please.
Because I think that help looks differently for different people. And I go back to the example of coaching. A good coach or a good mentor, they are there to draw out your greatness. And I love what you just said about solutions because, like you said, not everybody is going to have the way to get to that solution exactly the same. Some people, it might be a longer process. Some people, it might be a short process. Some people, it might be one question. But the true, like whether you find a psychologist or you do that through professional help, which is needed, or you find a coach or a mentor. I know for myself, I work with 2 different mentors who draw greatness out of me. And I'm, being totally vulnerable. It's okay for men to cry. And in fact, there are times when I've coached others and the men feel like we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We feel like we're all alone and there's nobody else that's helping us. And I'm just speaking specifically to men. You're not alone. Do this first step that Chanel just said. Find that one person that you can trust, that you can share with, that you can start to unpack some of this stuff that you're dealing with.
and assemble a team. So like I have a therapist, right? I have 2.5 coaches. In addition to that, I have support within my business. So like, and I make this joke all the time, like it takes a team for me to do anything, but it does. And I make light of it because I'm just punchy. It's my personality. But in all seriousness, I started to like, so after I got therapy, I was like, I'm doing too much. I'm not healing at the rate I want for many reasons. I'm not a healthcare professional. So I have a team of doctors that support me. I have a personal trainer that I go see. I need that help. I will go to the gym and talk on the phone. I've done it. So now I have some accountability and I pay a premium for that accountability, right? So if it's physical health, if you need a trainer, hire one. If you need a nutritionist, hire one, right? And I see him 5 times a week. I know. I need fast results. So I pay for my trainer. It works out really well for me. I've seen a lot of positive results physically. I'm in probably the best health I've ever been in. And I'm excited to see how that continues to evolve. It's understanding where the deficits are in your life and investing in positive results. So therapist, personal trainer, coach, have all those things. I spend a lot of money every month to maintain me. In addition to that, how do you find your happiness? How do you figure out where you make an impact? I gave it all up. I lost my job. I didn't have anything. And so I don't recommend you getting fired, but I do recommend considering, taking a leave of absence from work, save for that leave of absence and then take it. Think about what it would take for you to find your happiness. If it's work that clouds your judgment, and it could be work that's stealing your joy because it's that environment, take a leave of absence. They exist. You can take a mental health leave of absence. You can take FMLA. There's so many different options. Step away. Try to live your life differently. When I was unhappy in corporate America, this is going to sound so strange. I was like, I do the same thing every day. It takes me the same amount of time, and I hate it. So I started driving to work a different way, which sounds like not a big deal, but it helped.
I do that.
Yeah, it made me feel like something in my life had changed. If you're one of those people who likes to go to school, take a class. If you've been in school for a long time, take a semester off. For me, I have a certification in business analytics from Harvard. I have a certification in developing people and teams from Northwestern University. I was curious about both of these things. And I was like, I'm in corporate America. I hate it, but they pay for school. So I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to milk this cow until there is no more milk, right? And so I took all these classes. And we talk about impact. I talk so much, and I'm going to stop because we're almost done. Talk about impact. I went back to school, right? I went to my manager. I was like, I want to go back to class. And I was like, I want to go back to school. I'm unhappy. He was like, all right. And I was like, well, no, I'm telling you, I'm unhappy. This is how I make myself happy. So I need you to approve this so I can be happy. And he was like, okay. So he went away. He came back. He was like, okay, it's on. I was like, well, it's online. So there's really no reason for you to say no to me. And I was like, I need to be happy and this will help me. So he paid, obviously it came out the budget. He paid for it. And that gave me confidence to try different things. And so I started to figure out how my job could make me better. And then I hated my job. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the best. I'm going to prove to myself that if I'm going to be here, I'm going to maximize my time here. So I started performing, y'all. I went back to school. I became like the top banker in my little ecosystem. And that impact got other people going back to school. And so now the same people who were there when I was there, 2 of them have their MBAs. One of them is this semester will be done with her bachelor's degree. One of them actually went to law school. So and they've been there for many more years than me. And I kept saying, use the tuition reimbursement, take to school, go back to class, finish school. And I just kept saying it. And so the impact was my one little certification had a great impact on all these other people. When you start to seek your joy, and I was performing better at work, it's infectious. And so people around you want to be better. And so maybe the circumstances where you feel like your friends aren't doing enough, your husband or wife isn't doing enough, maybe you can lead the positive change that people need, that you need. And that's how I was able to find my joy. I just started doing other things. And it made me happy that this change that I made that was absolutely selfish had a positive impact on everyone around me. And I started to see that, and I started to explore what that meant. And it's paid off for me over and over again. So like, again, I gave it all up. I was very bold asking for that tuition reimbursement. It had nothing to do with my job, y'all. Nothing to do with my job. But it worked out. So again, you have to be willing to like take the risk and understand that like it may not work out immediately, but now 2 years later, that analytics course that I took from Harvard has made me so successful with Airbnb because I know what I'm doing and I have a back end advantage that most people don't have.
Well, I think that I like that all the stuff that you told kind of painted this picture that I think is important to kind of point out that, you know, we've been talking about, you know, finding your superpower. And I don't want people to think that you do that overnight. It's not like you get off here, you'll be like, you know, I'm going to find my superpower. And then, you know, 1.5 minutes later, you got it. That's not how it goes. Like, Chanel, I love that you kind of like have shared a lot of information that listening to that, you've painted the picture that it came in stages. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't over a week. It wasn't over a month. You know, this was something that you took this piece and you're like, okay, well, this feels better. Because you mentioned, oh, I started driving to work. Okay, this feels some better. You know, step one. So, I mean, I think that's the thing is that you may come to your, actually you will, I'm not going to say you may, you will come to your superpower in stages almost every time because, you know, you're going to figure out, okay, this feels good. I like this until you get to a point you're like, I don't know. And I think that's important to kind of point out because it takes time to figure it out. You got to weed through the mess. And one of the first things that I said early on in the show is that to be able to find your superpower, one of the things you need to do is try a lot of things because you do, you know, and I think that's why you don't typically find out what you want to do forever when you're 16, right? Thank God I'm not doing what I thought I wanted to do when I was 16.
Yeah, for sure.
What is that? So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that we grow and we change and we, you know, absorb information and we try new things. And if we're doing it the right way, we're weeding out those things that are not for us. So we can keep the things that at least for that moment are for us. And so we kind of get to the next step and we can weed out some more. And, you know, I love kind of that analogy of weeding actually, which I love gardening and plants and all the things because, you know, that's kind of how life works. Right. And I know Angela speaks on nature and Tim speaks on nature and I just go dig in the dirt with my worms and enjoy nature.
I'm writing it down. Look at me.
Yeah. It's good. And Chanel's like, no worms, no dirt.
No, ma'am.
No, that's fine. And that's another point to point out. It's okay to be different. Yeah, it's okay that I'm like, yes, dirt, yes, plants. And I'm like, look at this worm. Isn't he so cute? And even my team here are like, you're insane. I have worms here. I have brought worms to my business. I have worms here. So, but, you know, they bring me joy. And yes, people think I'm weird, especially whenever I was going to the city a lot and I'd talk about my worms and I'd be all glowing because that's one of my happy things. And they'd be looking at me like, Chanel just looked at me a second ago, but that's okay. I'm fine with it now.
No, ma'am. This is why I don't have plants. Everybody, when I was like trying to figure out my life, they're like, get a plant. And I was like, there are bugs in plants. Like, that's not, like, that's a deal breaker. You want to make me more miserable? I would die if I was like laying on a couch and I don't even want to think about that. That's just like not for me. And I totally appreciate like my outdoors experience is the beach, Miami. Like that's, you know, I'm an outdoors girl. But you know what? I like to hike. I found out that I like to hike.
Yay.
Like, not like fake
and on the beach, technically.
Yeah, no.
So, Angela, do we tell her that we were planning a backpacking trip for 5 days without showers or facilities or anything? I mean, you're welcome to come watch now.
I don't know about you, but I swim when I'm out there, so we still manage to clean up.
I totally encourage and support what brings you joy. I'll meet you at the end or at the beginning.
She'll be like, woo, you made it.
No, it's unfathomable to me that I would like be outside for 5 days. Like I won't go to Coachella for the same reason because it's in the middle of the desert. And you have these porta potties. That's a deal breaker for me. So
we could do a glam camping leadership retreat. I would be down with that. And then she might join us.
You have to sleep outside.
No, you get to sleep in like yurts and it's glamping. Are you familiar with glamping?
I'm familiar with the fact that people call it glamorous camping. Here's the thing. If you're glamorous camping, is that like a very beautiful spa environment where I can sleep inside and bathe inside and use the bathroom inside of traditional.
It's kind of like that.
No, but you know, I want an RV. I'm very invested in getting an RV. And when I have
children. That's like glamping there, right?
It's a little
I don't
glamping.
know. I just actually can't.
Honestly, glamping is probably more glamorous than even RV because someone's got to pump out the RV at the end of the day.
I don't know what I'm going to do. See, here's the thing. That's not going to be me. But I want an RV, but then it's like you have to drive. Like you got to be in it. So then like that's a problem for me because I don't like road trips. So what I'm thinking is, I think when it's time for me to retire, so like, like my real retirement, not like the first one when I got fired, but like when it's really time to retire, I think I'm going to get an RV and me and my husband will like drive it in short spurts. We'll probably have a driver because that's like a lot. And we'll like go places in the RV for a little while. But then when I think about, I know we're getting off topic, but like, when you're in an RV, you got to park in certain places. And I'm like, I'm a city girl. So like, that's inherently the problem with the RV process is that like, I'd rather just get in the G-Wagon and go places. You see?
So there is an option, Chanel, just like you do your Airbnb. They actually rent out RVs and they'll set the entire thing up for you at the campground. You can just fly right in, be at the campground with the RV, wherever you want to be.
Yes.
You can do it all across the nation in national parks.
Yes.
Don't campgrounds scare you?
Oh boy, we got a lot to talk about, but
okay,
we'll topic here.
next session we'll talk about.
We figured out what Chanel's superpower is not, and it's not camping, so that's fine then. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll go one night.
One of the tools I use is the Strength Finders. So if anybody, this is a great tool to be able to find what you're good at. We were referring back to it a couple times. This one I would highly recommend. So
yeah, that's a good one.
It made me very angry. I did not know those things about myself. I was not happy.
You were like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
In the Developing People and Teams program through Northwestern, they give you that. And I'm all about like disagreeing with like any sort of test that tells me things about myself. And so I was in an uproar. And I was the only person that was surprised by the findings. Everybody else was like, yeah, that's pretty on target. And then they give you one about like your conflict resolution style. That one made sense to me. But that thing, I was angry for weeks. I almost dropped out of the program. I was like,
you didn't like Strength Finders?
No.
Really? I found it very useful as far as understanding.
If you were to go through it again now, do you think your response would be the same?
Yeah. That thing hit me so on target that I couldn't believe it.
No. I mean Chanel, not you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So I have evolved. And
that's what I'm saying.
I did go back and look at it.
Journey.
And I think that it was right. But I don't like when like things that work for everybody and like put you in a box work for me. I don't like being boxed in. So it was very hard for me to digest that like this predictive test could be accurate. And then I was so uncertain about who I was. And then everybody else was like, oh yeah, this sounds just like you. I was like, what? Like, I was just like very, very angry. I'm gonna find it for you guys, and I'll make sure you get a copy, Tim. And you'll probably be like, "Yeah, this all makes sense." But
you're a rebel at heart, and I get that, and I absolutely love that about you.
Yeah, but there's a part of me that just, and if you're watching this, it's okay. Like sometimes these kind of things can be right, but when you're in a space where you don't know jack about yourself, and this test, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, it was just like, so what am I supposed to do with this? Is this who I am in the world?
Yeah.
And, really quick.
I think it comes with a qualification that things change. They always change.
Is that the one that tells you like you could be like a teacher or something?
No.
Okay.
No.
So there's like a third. No, I think there's like an extra layer. I have to figure out. But one of those things
this just tells you what you're inclined to be like. So for example, one of my strengths is winning others over. That's the number one strength that I have. That could amplify itself out in many, many, many different ways. The second one is communication. The third one is individuality. So these things show up in your life in many different fields. And then you layer on whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. And then you layer on your personality. And then you layer on all of these other things. And it allows you to kind of discover more about yourself, which then allows you to discover more who you are and the superpower that you possess inside of you. It's not meant to be quantitative, where it's just you are this and nothing else. That's impossible to do to people.
Yeah, but isn't there a part of that? Like, so it gives you like what you're good at, and then it says things like these characteristics lend themselves to different professions or something.
There's some analysis on some of the tests have some analysis of people who have these characteristics tend to
Tend
do
to be.
well in these
Yeah.
professions, but they don't say you have to go do that.
No.
However, we could do a session on strength finders and different predictive tests
I think that
on
would
a
be pretty
different
cool to
week.
do.
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
That way Chanel and I can argue again. I can't wait for that.
That's the kind of balance I like on the show, honestly, because if we
I
all are
found it.
100% the same, that would be really boring. But
Is that the Clifton Strengths? Is that what
Tom
that
Rath.
is? Huh?
It's not Clifton Strengths. It's a different one. There's many tests.
yeah, there's
I don't know
a lot
Clifton
of them.
Okay. It is now 10 after 2.
Yes, so we're late. So it's fine. It's at, is it 10? No, it's not. It's 2:08, but that's fine. It's close enough. We're still late. So we'll be back again next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode. I don't remember what we're talking about. I didn't have that pulled up, so you'll just have to watch the Facebook page. If you are listening later on the podcast platform, I would like you to click subscribe. That way you stay up to date on when we post a new episode. If you're watching live, thank you so much. And if you're watching a replay, please go to the comments and just go ahead and hashtag replay so we can keep up with that. And thank you, Angela, Chanel, and Tim for being part of this today. It was actually a blast. It really was. I loved it. I am that person that likes to sit back like hee and laugh at all the things going on. So this brought me great joy. I'm not gonna lie. So,
Me too.
I had
all right.
fun. Thank you.
You all
Thanks
have
for
a
all your
great rest of your day,
transparency
great
today.
week.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.